one of the key issues that I was able to identify when I was working with investors and consulting with them on business plans for investments was the inability to communicate on the part of the founders of the startups or the people that were going before the investors.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of FounderClosers. The focus of this podcast is and will always be centered around the founders and the startup businesses that are looking to continue to grow and become the next major business out there. Today, we have another exciting guest. Her name is Michele. Michele Thomas is a person who currently runs a consultancy business called Trusted Tech. She has a world of experience in regards to both the private sector and now the public sector. Recently retired, she is absolutely chasing her passion around, continuing to provide value in that space. Michele, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been traveling. Last week, I was out of town. For all of the people who know me, they know that I am a regimented, routine person. I don't like to be traveling. I don't like to be out of my comfort zone. I was back at home where I grew up. I was back at my parents' house over this past week, but traveling brought me back home, so I'm glad to be home. Did you have a good weekend?
I did.
Perfect. So, Michele, for our audience, as I said, we focus this podcast around founders. We specialize in speaking with founders, people who help founders, those types of things. My general background is around helping founders, businesses, companies generate revenue. I've got over 15 years of building and running sales organizations at first, like you in the corporate landscape. And for the past 3 years, I've been doing a lot of consulting and fractional style work in that space. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing today, and we'll get into kind of how you got there as well.
Sure. So in the past year, a trusted colleague and friend of mine and I started up a small consulting company. And most of our consulting is in the private and the public sector. And when I say public, state, local, and federal. And we're having a whole lot of fun with it because, we're both retired and we're just kind of learning from things that we've done and succeeded at and not succeeded at in the past. And it's really kind of fun starting up a company, for me at least.
Yeah, it's always interesting, have those conversations. I'm 42 years old now. I've had a plan to be able to financially retire in my 50s. I don't know if I'll ever be able to retire, Michele. I just don't know if that retirement life is with me. I spent the last week, as I said, with my father, and he is a guy who has, I would say, the most retired, non-retired life of anybody I've ever met. He plays golf 2 to 3 times a week. He plays poker every week, once a week, and another poker once a month with a bunch of guys. He is traveling almost every week. He is the most retired, not retired person ever. And I was trying to explain to him, I was like, why are you so itching to retire? And his argument is, I've earned it. I want to be able to retire. And I'm like, cool, but why do it when you enjoy what you do, you make decent money doing it, and you're still able to have this life? Why do it? But he is adamant on doing it. Was retirement something you always looked forward to? And was this second phase of your career post-retirement something that was part of the plan all along, or you just kind of wanted to get the juices flowing again?
It's a good question. It's a combination of all those things. I had 28 years of time if you will, in the federal government. And I decided that, I read the tea leaves and saw the silliness that was probably going to come around. And I just decided to retire. It wasn't something that I planned for years.
Gotcha.
I set up my retirement, Ks and the whole bit, but I never really decided on this day, on this year, I am going to retire. But then when I read those tea leaves and I started seeing where things were going, I thought, maybe now is a good time to retire. And so within 6 weeks, I went from career to retirement, which, in the public sector is not exactly common. And I didn't want to stay idle, so to speak. I knew I wasn't going to stay idle, and I had to think about what I wanted to do. And then something just fell in my lap, and and it was a job. It was another job. I got a call from somebody in the governor's office in the state of Maryland and offered me the position of being the first CTO of the state of Maryland. And
Wow.
I thought, holy cow, let's see, I just filled out the papers for retiring, and now I'm being offered a job, and I know I don't want to do nothing. So hell, I'll try it, right?
Yeah.
And so, I did that for a while, and then I decided I wanted to apply the things that I've learned over all of the years, and maybe not on a full-time basis. Actually try to, enjoy a little bit of time for myself to do the things that I like to do, which have nothing to do with technology, which is my background. But I decided to go ahead and start a company up with this friend and colleague that I mentioned, and we're doing pretty well for a company that's only been in business for less than a year, and we're getting work by word of mouth because we're pretty well known in the industry.
That's impressive. I think that's always one of the first challenges, especially when you start a consultancy business, which is how am I going to get people to consult with? So awesome that you guys had a word of mouth. Now, the guy that you started this with, did he have a similar path to retirement than you? He was in the government based work, decided looking at the future, timing was right, decided to walk away. Was that his path too, or was his a little bit just further down?
His was a little different, not so much further down. He was working in the private sector as a contractor for the government, and he worked for me long ago and far away, and we got to know each other and got to trust each other. And I left where I was and went to another agency, and he stayed there. And then I hired him to work for me at the agency that I was at. So he became a federal employee, and things just kind of went from there. We had the opportunity to work together again. We did some really great things for the U.S. Department of Labor, where I was the deputy CTO, and we just had a lot of fun. And when I retired first, he decided, well, we have to figure out a way to work together and to have some fun together and enjoy retirement.
Right.
And so we did. Is that simple? It wasn't a very well, decision that we thought about for 12 or 24 months. It was just, no, this feels right. Let's do it.
Yeah. So as you guys are right now, you're working with a select number of companies, right? You had mentioned to me prior to us hitting the record button that a lot of your background was in more of the private sector, working in the governmental side, but a lot of what you work with now are the private businesses, startups, founders. You're working in that kind of segment. What's the biggest difference between those two sectors for you in your space?
Oh, golly. Right now, I think it's bigger than it was a year or two ago. And I say that because there's just a lot of turmoil in the federal sector right now. And there's also a lot of turmoil in the state and local sector. On the private side, I think everything is being dictated by this new technology called AI that everybody wants to get into or invest in. And it's kind of driving some excitement. It's driving a lot of work for us. And it's very, very different from a cultural standpoint as well. So right now, the culture in federal agencies is really low. It's down. It's kind of sad what's happening with all the people that have lost their jobs and the turmoil that's going on. On the private side, you've got a lot of major companies that are letting people go. There's a lot of people that are looking for jobs. I mean, heck, if you look at LinkedIn, this, accepting jobs or willing to work tag that people put on their photo, you see a lot of that. And some of these people are people I know and have worked with in the past. So it kind of there's no shortage of finding good people right now, in my opinion and in my experience. But there's just this apprehension that I feel out there, whether it's companies that want to know why their AI program failed and they lost $15 million in their prototype and what did they do wrong, or whether it's a company that just wants to figure out how to move their infrastructure into the cloud and how to do it the best way and whatever. So it's a lot of different things, but it's affecting people's decision-making capabilities, whether it's public or private.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people, and I anticipate in the next couple of years being a lot more of these type of people who were successful in the corporate landscape and have now become in the consulting world, with both you and I do, but they've done it not from a position of strength, but from a position of weakness, in that they've found it difficult to make the type of money or find the opportunity that they wanted to in the corporate world. So they find themselves leaning heavily on this gig-based economy as kind of a way to create a means. Now, obviously, I would say one of the biggest differences, I would say maybe it sounds like there are two primary differences that have happened over the past couple of years. Number one, we've had change in governmental heads, obviously, where we went from one government to another government, and a new head of that government who had different things that they were interjecting in on both sides. But then we've also had, and I've seen it big time in every segment of my business, and the people that I interact with, which is the massive evolution of AI companies and people thinking they can create AI companies.
Exactly.
I mean, that I could tell you that, and I'm not exaggerating when I say in the past 6 months, I've had no less than 50 people in my network, people that I know of that I work with or worked around, that have started their own AI company in the past
Mhm.
couple of years. Is that what you are helping private companies with, is how to build this new AI stuff? Or is it more than anything how to protect them against AI, how to put the proper structures in place to be able to scale? I mean, what would be if I had to give your elevator pitch on how you help a startup, what is the main thing you're helping them with?
So, helping startups is not the biggest chunk of what we do. I mean, people that I know that are starting up businesses will ask me for advice, basic startup advice, like, you know, what do you want to do and why do you want to do it? Why is it important to you? Do you even have a business plan? What's your strategy? Can you tell me in less than 30 seconds why you're the cat's meow and I'm not?
Right.
That kind of thing. And what I do mostly is help people who want to leverage the capabilities of these AI companies and implement them in their business, whether it's manufacturing or information technology or whatever. The biggest thing with using AI is not knowing what the foundation of it is. And the foundation of it is not engineering and it's not coding, it's data, right? And then you have things like the failure rate of implementations of AI is, if you trust Gartner or Forrester or any of those big companies, they'll tell you that the average program, 83%, 83.5% fail, and the average cost of a failure is $15 million. So people really want to get in because their boards of directors want them to get into using the AI technology, make them more money, make them leaner, make them, less costly and more efficient to run. And then you have people that just want to kind of dabble in it and want to be able to maybe demonstrate to their board that if they can reduce the workforce by 5% and be more efficient, then maybe we can expand out of that. These are the people that I like to go after and that come to me because I've done enough speaking about, the failure rates and what people don't understand about AI. Now, there have been a couple of companies that were started up by engineers, AI companies, that thought that they had a really good and different and totally wonderful approach to an AI. They had a problem that AI could solve. And so they wanted to build their own LLMs. They wanted to build their own whatever to be able to sell it. And I've seen every single one of them fail, because one of the things that I learned long ago when I did some consulting for investors on startups to invest in and not invest in is that the leadership of the startup is important. The workforce of the startup is important, but the strategy and the focus of what they want to offer, what they think is the solution to the problem, and what the problem is that they're trying to solve, most of them have no clue. They just think they have they've solved an engineering problem and now they can sell it, but nobody really wants to buy it.
It's funny, and I've really been narrowing in on this on the past 90 days, Michelle. And every prospective client I consider taking on to help them, and like I said, for me, and I'll explain this in kind of a little long way, but I think it's important context. My area of specialization today has changed, and how it's changed is because I made a lot of the same mistakes you're talking about these AI companies making when I became a startup founder of my business, right? And the first thing I said is, man, I've had a lot of success in building sales teams, and I come from a certain place, and I've done it for many different corporate companies. And instead of continue to do it for them, I just do it for me. And I offered a staffing based sales organization where I hired people to come work for me and trained them and then offered them in staffing capacities for companies. And all that was great. No problems there. Problem is, they'd be like, well, who do you build sales teams for? I'd be like, anybody, everybody, just give me a company and I'll sell it. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, could I learn? Sure. But then I realized, man, over the past 13 years, almost all of my experience has been in the automotive space, almost all my relationships, all my success. What I know has been doing it there. So I have recently re-narrowed back in my ICP, Michelle, from having such a broad ICP to having a very specific ICP. And then as I made that discovery myself, I mean, all of a sudden, just having that very specific focus of where I'm going on and that niche that I specialize in, it's created such more of a demand than me trying to tackle every opportunity of sales
Mhm.
out there. And I think so often these corporate companies make the mistake of not knowing what their niche is or even being willing to have a niche. And what I found is when you really have a really nailed in niche, that's where you can create real demand. But when you try to solve everything for everybody, it creates that issue. So then the second part of it, Michelle, I ask two common questions to anybody I'm considering working with. Number one, I say, who is your ICP? Less than 20% of the people I ask that question struggle answering that question. Okay. And I generally meet with technical founders who have a product, but they're not have experience in sales revenue. Okay. And then the second question I asked them, Michelle, which I think you'll find this one interesting, is explain to me in less than 15 words what makes you unique to the market. And that less than 15 words part is the part that really makes them struggle. Because if I give somebody, I'll give you 10 minutes, explain to me, they can explain it to me. But when I say in 15 words or less, tell me what makes you unique, very few have the ability to answer that because they've never thought about answering that question in
Mhm.
that way. Those are the two things I require to be answered and clearly answered before I work with the company in today's world. Do you see similar type of mistakes happening, or just, I would say
All
it's
the
just
time.
immaturity of where the business is, which is running before you walk, and just kind of teaching them to
Yeah.
take a couple steps back and reminding them I made the same mistake when I started too.
Mhm.
I was just running and didn't walk first.
Yeah. I think one of the key issues that I was able to identify when I was working with investors and consulting with them on business plans for investments was the inability to communicate on the part of the founders of the startups or the people that were going before the investors, and the inability to communicate that strategy. Why are you here? Tell me in 15 words, 30 seconds, whatever. What is your pitch? What are you selling? Why do I need it? And I always thought that the why do I need what you've got to be the most important question. What pain point are you going to solve for me if I give you money? Because what they're thinking is, oh, I got a solution for you. I don't know what your problem is, but I got a solution for you. And I'm going to get a 50-foot yacht and I'm going to drive a Maserati and all that, stuff. And sometimes I had to ask myself silently, what are they smoking or what are they drinking or whatever? Because it was just absolutely wild. And that's the way it is today with AI. I have a friend that I hadn't talked to in 7, 8 years who calls me out of the blue and says he's starting up an AI company because he's got a solution. And I started asking him questions about what is the solution and who is it for? And he was all over the map. Problem still exists today. It's
100%.
it's almost like it's human nature.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, one of the other problems I see when I start working with the companies, one of the things I want to do before I ever take them on as a client is I want to see them and witness them do a sales presentation to a client.
Mhm.
And you'd be surprised, maybe, I don't know, maybe Michelle, but I would guess you'd be surprised how few people even understand what a sales discovery is. And you're not come with a sales background, but I'm sure you can get what this means, which
Mhm.
is asking them questions about what do you need me to solve for you? Do
Yeah,
you
what's your
have
pain
any
point?
what's your pain point? And then providing the solution to what they said their pain point is. So often, like to what you just said, I see it on the sales side all the time, which is, here's everything we do. Does anything resonate? Instead of, what do you need? Here's how we specialize in helping
Yeah.
you. And that's just, it sounds like the same problem that happens across the board. Now, you had mentioned the people creating large language models. I'm not in those rooms, Michelle. I'm not a part of those. Now, what I see a lot of these companies that are creating these smaller business from the existing large language models. What
Mhm.
do you see is the thing that's most surprised you going into 2026 about how we as a society, we as a general community, we as a workforce are using large language models today? Are you surprised? Are you excited? Are you nervous? I mean, how do you feel about it?
Well, I came from an IT background, and
Uh-huh.
I'm still in that area. And unsurprisingly, I've seen information technology, whether it's cybersecurity, data management, whatever, that's where the most AI use is that I see. And actually I was reading a news story today that kind of presented a graphic from a survey that kind of backed up what my thoughts are. I think is ripe for using the AI technology today that I don't see a lot of use of or with right now is things like the health industry, medical technology. How can we improve things? How can we come up with new medicines faster? How can we test things better? Everybody's heard the story about, doing threat hunting more efficiently with an AI application of some sort. That's great. And it's real. I've seen it work. But what I'm interested in is seeing other areas. Also, fraud in the financial sector is kind of building up some momentum right now. How do you detect credit card fraud and other kinds of fraud in the financial sector? Also, in law enforcement, my first job in the federal government was working for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which was part of the Treasury Department, and that was white collar crime. And we were doing everything by hand, literally, right?
Yeah.
Going through mountains and mountains of data by hand, and things took an enormous amount of time. You can do things in microseconds now with AI technology in the law enforcement sector. Recently, I'll tell you a little story. I had a knee replacement, and prior to having my knee replacement, I had a procedure done that involved using an ultrasound. And the doctor that was using the ultrasound told me, he said, "You're going to hear the laptop that he was connected to with the ultrasound machine talking to me, and you're going to hear me talking to it. So don't worry about it." And I thought, okay. And what he was doing is he was giving commands to using AI in a very small way in this application. Give me more gain on this picture. Give me less gain. Give me more of this. Give me more of that. And then sometimes it would say, you're moving too far away. You need to go to your left, and I'm laying down on a table, and what they did was they were doing cryotherapy on my knee. And so I could see the screen in front of me, and I could hear the doctor, and I could hear the computer talking back to him. And I thought, wow, this is a cool use. It's a very small thing, but it's a cool use of AI technology to help this physician do what he needed to do and get me out of that room as soon as possible. And that's the kind of stuff that I see. My knee replacement was a robotic assisted knee replacement. That technology has been around since 2017, 2015. But what it did is it allowed the operation to take half the time it would have taken 7, 8, 10 years ago. It did it more efficiently. And not only that, but with a whole lot more precision, because they calculated how everything needed to happen, where it needed to happen, and when it needed to happen based on data that came from 3D imagery that they took before. That's the kind of stuff that I think is really ripe. But I think that some of the things that we're hearing in the news about AI and how it can be used are holding companies back. And so
Okay.
what I see for 2026 is a little bit more trust in the capabilities of AI outside of the pure technology or cybersecurity or whatever fields are at the top of the list right now. Insurance, medicine, research. I mean, can you imagine the terabytes of data that you could go through in a fraction of the amount of time that we took 5 years ago?
Michelle, it's crazy. I mean, this past week I had recorded a 22-minute video about something I do in my business for some of my employees, and it was kind of like a here's everything that we do within the business. And I did a whole 22-minute video, had it all edited. It was for other reasons. And then I had a client that wanted to know more about what we did, and so I was going to do a presentation with them. And one of my assistants took that 22-minute video, transcribed it, threw it into AI, and it made a sales presentation for me
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
In that regards, the very next day after I met with them, we put together a custom proposal for them, and we downloaded the Fathom recording from the meeting that we had with the customer. And then that took in all of the data from the conversation, the numbers we discussed, all of the scenarios. And then that was able to create and build a custom proposal that was able to then make that into a PDF. We were able to then take that PDF,
Mhm.
put it into our DocuSign, and get that customer signed up. All of those things that would have taken one of my assistants days to put together a
Mhm.
proposal, days to put together a presentation, days to do all of that. We were able to do all of that stuff just utilizing the data, the recordings, the videos that we already had in less than 10 minutes of our work. And we were able to
Yeah.
do that. And I know I'm just using the elementary versions of AI that we have with, your chat GPTs and your Geminis and those large language models. It's incredible. I envision, Michelle, that within 5 years, there won't be a surgeon doing that surgery. It will
Mhm.
be that computer, that AI. It'll be a version of that surgeon, and they will be perfect every time. And that's the part that is both scary but also exciting, in that when we have all of these continued advancements on advancements on advancements, is then some of these people that are so vital in our spaces today become significantly less vital. And what does everybody else do with all these surgeons when you have AI that can do it for cheaper, that can do it better, that can do it without needing days off or vacation? How do we get this done? Is that an optimistic thing to you, Michelle, or is that something you're pessimistic about?
The only pessimistic part, well, the one that's at the top of the list for me is people want to be in control. And, in the example that you were giving of having robotics and artificial intelligence take over some of the duties, if not all of the duties of a surgeon in the next, I don't know, 3 to 5 years, what do you think all the surgeons and the guys that went and the women that went to the medical school and have $250,000 worth of loan debt to pay off are going to think about that?
Oh, they won't like it.
Um,
But the hospitals won't care.
well, the insurance companies won't care, but I
Nope.
think the hospitals will. The boards of directors of the hospitals that are for-profit hospitals,
Do
and
you
there are
think the
plenty of
patients will
them.
care, though?
If the outcomes are better, I tell you what, maybe I'm an odd duck here, but when I was looking for a surgeon to do my knee replacement, I wanted a surgeon, number one, who was on the younger side, meaning
Okay.
maybe less than 40, who had experience doing knee replacements, and someone who wasn't afraid of using technology, robotic assisted surgery. There are over a dozen different types of robotic assisted surgeries that are out there. Only one of them right now is active, and it just came out last year, so it's not FDA approved. Active means that the robot actually does something that the surgeon normally does now. In robotic assisted surgeries right now, the robot helps the surgeon make precision cuts, and the surgeon activates the laser that cuts the bone to put the implant in and all that stuff. But it still requires the surgeon's skill, knowledge, and experience to actually perform the surgery. If we're talking about taking that element out, I think the desire of people to control what's happening in their environment and what impacts them directly, meaning their job, I think enough people are afraid of that's going to be the biggest thing that's going to hold us back. And the second biggest thing that I think is going to hold us back is our lack of trust in AI. Just simple trust.
I don't disagree with you. And I think that the problem, though, Michele, is you and I are looking at the lens in how we view AI today. And let me give you, in my mind, what I project within a year or two. When I was a kid, I'm 42 years old. My mother would tell me, don't get in a car with strangers. She'd say, Michele, don't get in a car with strangers. Yesterday, not only did I get in a car with a stranger, but I put my 2-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, my wife, and my mother-in-law in a car with a stranger. We actually gave them the physical address to come pick us up from the airport and take us to our home because of convenience and technology. And every day, we got home from that trip, we were gone 10 days, and Michele, we had about 10 to 12 Amazon packages in the house. And my neighbor was feeding the dog, and he was bringing Amazon packages. And Amazon wouldn't even have been in our radar a couple of years ago, but now I needed batteries for a new scale I bought. I ordered them on Amazon instead of running to the grocery store because it was a little chilly last night when I got home. And I said, well, they'll just be here tomorrow by the time I get done with work. And so the convenience of that makes it so, instead of me going to Best Buy to buy a new computer, just buy it online because it's convenient. Maybe even it's cheaper. And if I don't like it, I can still return it. It's like no risk in that regards. And I think that as soon as convenience, price, and those things are able to help, then everybody will continue to take that. Now, where the biggest pushback would be in the labor force, that a good percentage of high-paying individuals will now be unemployed. They'll now, we've all depended on these things to provide work for us, are going to take, I'd say, 50% of our jobs in the next 10 years. But the question comes of it, what does the AI then create? And every major advancement, from the internet to when they created paper, all these different cars, it always just creates more advancement and more opportunities, and the economy grows around those. But I think that we'll overall continue to adopt, and I think that we're going to see next year it's going to grow 10x faster than it did the year before, and the next year after that it's going to grow 100x times faster, and I think it's going to grow exponentially fast on itself. Now, one thing, you came from more of a security background too, right? My wife and I have talked about this. I'd love to see your advice or at least your thoughts on it. So obviously I do a podcast. I put a podcast out once a week, sometimes multiple podcasts a week I put out. A couple of months ago, my team, we were developing an AI voice product to develop internally for our business to supplement what we do inside of our business, because we offer staff or some administrative-based roles that we felt like we could create a voice AI bot and automations to be able to do a lot. And my team, without asking me, extracted my voice from my YouTube and then called me from a phone system, and it was me calling me, and it wasn't never was me. I didn't say the stuff, it was. And then another one of my employees then found this technology that was able to then extract my video and have me using my voice saying something with my video, and it was indistinguishable to me. There's that deep fake concept that's out already now, so much so that my wife and I have already set up our own passwords with each other to where we have certain passwords to make sure that we are internally, and we left our phones at the house. We went for a walk, had the conversation, and then
Yeah.
came back and came up to that process. Do you feel like there's going to be a lot of scams, a lot of theft that's going to be used from this AI stuff? Or
Oh,
in,
yeah, there
yeah,
already is. There already is, whether it's pictures, whether it's voices. Absolutely. I mean, you see deepfakes all the time. The challenge for a lot of people is to be able to distinguish. I'm talking about regular people,
yeah,
not
right, not,
experts like,
yeah,
at
exactly.
the FBI or whatever. But how can you tell the difference? How can you examine a photo? How can you examine a voice recording and determine, is that Matt or is that Michelle or is that their automated voice? It's getting harder and harder to do that. And I think that there is some work going on between governments, and I'm talking state and federal, and it's certainly going on in other countries where the big AI companies are talking to government representatives about how are you going to help us prevent this from happening to our citizens, to our people? How are you going to help us distinguish what's real and what's not? Because right now it's very difficult. And I'm not talking about the agreement that Disney recently made with an AI company to use their likenesses in videos that can be created, animated videos. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of experiment, that happened with you, where you thought it was your voice, but it was, but it wasn't,
Yeah, it
and it was
sounded like
saying
me, but it
things.
wasn't me. Yeah, I
Yeah,
never said it. Yeah,
exactly. And having that safe password, right, is critically important. I think some of the biggest targets are elderly people. We hear
for
about
sure.
it on the news, and it's real. It happens. I mean, it happened to my mother-in-law a few years back, and somebody represented himself as her son, my brother-in-law, and it was horrible. She fell for it and lost some money, and that's just happening all over the place now. Look at what hackers are doing and how they're able to use AI to do all the different things that they want to do, whether it's, you know, fraudulently use your credit card or worse, right? So I think the AI companies, whether it's, the big boys, what I call the big boys,
Yeah,
OpenAI, Gemini, and so on,
yeah,
um, I think once the sexiness of what they have come up with and the dollars that they're raking in from what they have come up with settles down in the next 12 to 18 months, they're going to start to see how they can partner with people. They can use the technology that they've come up with and use it to benefit as well as to protect. And the protect part is what you and I are talking about right now. How do we protect that technology from costing people their life savings or even their lives, right? I mean, we've heard about inadvertent things like Teslas that won't stop and hit trains and hit trucks and all sorts of other automated AI-driven technologies that have existed for a while now. Those are basic and rudimentary compared to what else AI can do. But these are the kinds of things that make people afraid of it. These are the kinds of things like you as the head of a company, as a CEO, you could have reacted very differently than you did, right? You could have had a very negative reaction and that would have spoken volumes to your employees in ways that you didn't anticipate had you
sure.
done that, right? And that forms people's opinions. And so we have to be careful how we use technology. AI is what we're talking about right now. But we also have to think about, you know, how do we use it? How do we implement it? Everybody wants to get rich. Everybody wants something out of something, right? Whether it's minor, what do I want for myself today? I want to, get a good night's sleep. When you've had, traumatic surgery like a knee replacement, it's really hard to sleep for the first several months afterwards. So I want something really small. But people have big dreams, and sometimes they need technology or need something like AI to execute on their dreams to help them become reality. But if they don't have that trust factor, if they are a control freak and they can't express their need for control while trying to use that technology in a way that is digestible by whoever's trying to sell it. Going back to the problem, what is it that you have to sell? What pain point are you going to sell for me? Well, I don't trust AI, but I'm going to get fired if I don't make more money for my
Yeah.
CEO and my board of directors, my investors. That kind of thinking clouds our judgment sometimes. I see that in some of the customers that we have when they come to us and they say, Michele, I can't have another failure like we've had. What did we do wrong? What can we do to not have this experience and lose millions of dollars? I don't want to get fired. I have 3 kids to put through college, as one person told me. And I said, okay, so I understand what's motivating you, but what's motivating you is not a business problem. It's a personal problem. And I need to know what going back to your point a while ago, what's your business problem? How can I help you solve your business problem? So
Right.
take the control factor out. Give them enough information to quell that fear a little bit by helping them understand the technology that they're seeking to use, and you're much more able to be successful. And that goes to other qualities that I look for, right? Which are transparency, honesty. I mean, if somebody tells me what their problem is and I don't think we can help them with it, I'll be the first one to say, I'm not the best solution for you. Let me help you find the best solution. And sometimes those people end up being your customers for life, because then they'll go out and they'll find a problem that they know you can solve because you
Right.
were honest enough to say, I don't think I can help you.
Yeah. I mean, that goes so far when you have that ability to do that right there, where you're not
Hmm.
so hungry and desperate for taking on a client you can't, but just being able to go from there. So, Michele, I've got one other thing I want to share with you when it comes to technology. And you mentioned your knee treatment. Have you been to Panama in the past 10 years? You should go to Panama and check out getting stem cells in your knee while you're out there. That's an incredibly amazing organic technology that they have, where they do legal stem cell injections into pain points. And I've heard the recovery side behind that medically is amazing. So from a healing, recovery, and a vacation perspective, I would say check it out. If I got, I think, 4 generations of knee surgeries lined up on my mother's side. So knee surgery is likely an inevitable thing for me eventually, as a former athlete,
Yeah.
and a mother who's had knee
Yep.
surgery, a grandmother who's had knee surgery, aunt, uncles, all these people have had knee surgery. That will absolutely be the route I go. Hopefully in America, they will, the stem cells will be legal by then. They're still not here in America with all of our rules and regulations that follow.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of research going on with that.
yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
other than that, look, Michele, I've enjoyed the conversation. I love to talk about these types of things. I think, you know, I'm excited to see what you continue to do over these next couple of years doing consulting. I'm glad that you've decided to do it, because it seems like, yes, you have a level of experience and a passion of interest that you have. And I'm excited to see you continue to run that race down there. Hopefully you can get back into a little bit more of the private sector down the road as well, too, where there
Mhm.
maybe creates a little bit more opportunity. And I think we've got a lot of change happening over these next 5 years. I'm excited to see you be a part of it.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited to be part of it. I really am. Because
So,
every day is something new.
absolutely. So for all the guests, all I would ask, as I always do, like, comment, share. Please keep the conversation going. If there's anything that Michele said in here that you agree with, share it. If there's anything that you heard that you disagree with that I said, please share it, comment. More conversation creates more discussion, and that's what it's all about. Michele, thank you again. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
All right,
Bye
have a good
bye.
one.